I've been camping again.
Again?
Again.
Jeez,
I
Phil.
I know. I do it every so often. And I come back and I always have like some camping report of, oh, couldn't have towed there with an EV truck and look at all these EVs that I saw, whatever. This one was an easy camping trip. It was like 40 minutes from my house. I could have towed my camper with almost anything to get there. So that wasn't kind of the I don't want to give a report on that. But the one EV that was in the campground
Hmm.
was a Rivian. So I
Okay.
thought that was kind of cool. I think it was yeah, it was
The
the van.
truck
No, it
or the
wasn't the truck.
SUV?
Yeah, it was
So
the SUV.
R1S. Okay.
Yeah. But I saw something else that really caught my attention. And I was like, wow, that's really like hippie. And does this say anything, especially about things to come?
Uh-huh.
But first, thewhatcar.com/store. Buy yourself a t-shirt. If you're watching the video version of this podcast, you will see Ed wearing the I've got an adapter for that shirt. He's ridiculously showcasing this shirt. You go there, help support the blog and the podcast. It's part of how we fund this whole endeavor, so it's greatly appreciated. I appreciate it when you do that. I'm Phil Royle. I've been doing this content creation in some way, automotive journalism, for 25 years, soon to be 25 plus years. It was like 20 years when we started this podcast, and now it's for over 20 years. Now it's going to be
Just don't say
over.
quarter century.
Yeah, I'm not.
It doesn't sound like.
But that's who I am and what I've been doing and how I'm still trying to stay relevant in an ever-changing industry.
Indeed. Ed Sanchez, likewise, 25 plus years in automotive content creation and moderation. Day job, automotive electronics industry analyst, and the Watt Car co-founder and contributor.
All right. So I'm in the campground. I'm riding my
Yes.
bicycle around with my kids, as you do. And then at night, people put up lights and whatnot. And one of the spots had a couple people car camping slash tent camping. They were kind of sleeping in their cars, sleeping in tents, sleeping under the stars. It was real like, we were near the beach. So there
Hmm.
was surfing going on. There was all this stuff. And one of the cars was a Prius. And not a new Prius, just regular Prius, not a Prime, not
Probably like a Gen 3, maybe.
yeah, just your run of the mill, standard
Yeah.
issue, uh, regulation issue
Prius hatchback.
Prius. Yeah. And they had the back popped up and they had lights coming from it, like I said, real hippie type stuff. And next to it was an old Volkswagen bus. Now I say old Volkswagen bus, that could mean a million things. And if you're an enthusiast in Volkswagen buses, you'd be like, oh, is it
It's
a
like
square
a
window split?
30-year lifespan.
Yeah, is it like the split window something something? I don't know. I don't know. It was a bus, but it was really cool. And he had like the door was open and there was
Hmm.
like a bed in there and he'd outfitted it for the, living this lifestyle, living this
Hmm.
hippie lifestyle. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. Like the Rivian that was there, like, that
Hmm.
was just, it was like a Rivian and a minivan and they just parked and they were just tent camping and whatever. But this was like a
Hmm.
lifestyle going on with a bunch of these friends just out for the weekend having a good time.
Hmm.
And with the ID buzz coming, does that change this? Is this prime market for them? And at the same time as all of this, like I think the day after I got back, was it? Yeah. That there was an article about Volkswagen or was it Car and Driver
Hmm. They were the
did some
first to do an
testing.
official test. They actually tested it.
The new one, which I assume is the long wheelbase
Dual motor.
dual motor, 3 row,
Yep.
very affordable. What are these? $15,000?
Not quite.
Oh,
A little bit more than that.
so how much?
So for rich hippies.
Yikes! I just looked at the as tested price, $72,035.
Hmm.
What's the base? It's about 69 something, isn't it?
If you did the single motor, I don't even know what the trim levels are called, but like the S or the Pro S or whatever it is, I think that's 60-ish.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
So,
So the 72 is pretty top of the line, I think.
and for that, you get a 190-mile range, but at 75 miles an hour.
Yeah,
which
well, that's car and drivers testing. This is
yeah,
EPA rating is 231, so which is
I
still kind of meh.
I think that's yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Their charging is fine, so it's fine. I mean,
It's
it's hardly
fine.
class leading.
I'll tell you what surprised me though, and especially if you compare it to the original microbus. Care to guess what the 0 to 60 was on this?
So this shocked me. In fact, I mean, I usually don't look ahead at these things, but I saw this number and was like, "Whoa, that's fast!" So 5.5 seconds, 0 to 60. Now, to put
Yeah,
that into reference back to the original Volkswagen bus, they're
it was like
still measuring it. They started accelerating back in the 60s, and they are waiting to hit 60 miles an hour.
I think well, I think the originals, well, I mean original, I don't even know if the top speed was even 60, but even going to like probably the 60s and 70s, I want to say the top speed was like 65 or something. And I think it was probably like I'm not exaggerating. I think it was literally like about 35 or 40
No,
seconds.
if I was gonna guess, I would guess somewhere in the fastest would be mid to high 20-second range,
Yeah.
more than likely in the 30s. I mean, I've been behind these guys. I live in Southern California. I see the original buses quite a bit because I go
Yeah.
surfing and whatnot. Once again, watch the video, YouTube,
Hmm.
at the What Car. We've got videos. You know, you'll see I've got surfboards in the background, whatever. I'm living the dream, but I'm living the dream behind Volkswagen buses that are going really slowly up the hills to get to the beach.
Yeah. So
So
I mean, compared to
6,000.
the originals, this is like rocket speed.
Yeah, but it
Uh,
weighs 6,174 pounds is its curb weight, which is,
yeah.
I think, equivalent to about six old buses.
It's
That's
definitely
not
more
for,
than double. I think Car and Driver
yes.
said the original was like 2,500 pounds.
Yeah,
So
that sounds about right to me.
more than double that easily. Yeah.
So all of this sounds good except for the price. And the 0 to 60 is unnecessary. Like, if I were to get one of these, I'd buy
It's just
two-wheel
kind of icing on the
drive.
cake.
Yeah,
Mhm.
if it did 0 to 60 in 12 seconds, I'd be fine with that. You know,
It's
it's
a
a van.
bus.
It's gonna tip
Yeah.
over. This vehicle. So back in my days where I was doing a decent amount of work with Toyota
Hmm.
through another company, we were involved in the release of the launch of the FJ Cruiser
Hmm.
back in the mid 2000s, mid aughts, I think, when they
Yeah.
redid or when they came out with the FJ
I want to say
Cruiser.
like 06, 07.
Yeah,
I'm not
somewhere around
exactly
there. And,
sure.
and I
Yeah.
went around, did a whole bunch of cool stuff. But one of the interesting things is you could not turn off stability control on those because
Hmm.
they could not figure out how to get these vehicles to not flip over. They were just too top heavy. They were too
Hmm.
tall, too skinny, and they would just flop right over. Now, it didn't stop them from being capable of off-roading or what have you. But I suspect the ID Buzz, is it going to be called the ID Buzz?
That's yeah, that's it. It's official. Yeah.
Why not call it like the ID Bus and just lean into it instead of being close
Because
to?
they're trying to be edgy.
Yeah, I guess.
Yes. I don't know.
But I suspect it'll be similar. And people in Europe will already be able to tell me. But I suspect there'll be stability control that you just simply can't turn off on this thing.
I think that's most German cars. I think that's most cars, period, now.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, there's usually like a little dance, but the FJ
Yeah.
you just couldn't turn it off. It was kind of weird. But then again, this is EV. The battery's down low, so it won't be as
Yeah.
bad. But whatever. You don't need 5.5 seconds there to 60.
Yeah. It's
Point.
way quicker than it needs to be. I'll tell you one thing I noticed. This seems like kind of an apples and oranges comparison, but I'll tell you the vehicle I've seen many outlets compare it to. And at first I was like, well, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But really, I mean, it's like, you could make the case. Um, a lot of sites and outlets are comparing it to the Kia EV9. I'm wondering if you think
Sure.
that's a fair comparison or you think that's like totally out in left field.
I think it's kind of on its own.
The
Now I
the
could
bu
see it. The
ID
buzz
Buzz,
is,
yeah.
yeah, I think the buzz is kind of on its own. I could see that comparison. I could see it being compared to a number of other items,
Mhm.
other vehicles. But I think it's kind of, I was asked this question in a job
Like a
interview
fashion
years
statement.
ago. Yeah, I was asked this, I was interviewing for a job
Mhm.
and they were saying, okay, we'll give you a vehicle and you name, I think I might have told this story before. You name its competition. If somebody's shopping for this, what would you say oh, well, there's also this and this and this. And they said Corvette. And I said, nope, Corvette. Like, if you're shopping for a Corvette, you're shopping for a Corvette.
Okay, but
Shopping
what
for a
about
Porsche, you're shopping for a Porsche. Like, you know what you're going for
okay,
with
does that
something.
change with the C8? Would
Uh,
you then say 911?
Maybe with the C8. This was pre
Yeah,
C8. And,
yeah.
just to be crystal clear, I didn't get the job, so I obviously answered the question wrong. But there are certain cars that I don't think you cross shop things. You go
Yeah,
in and you go, this is what I'm getting. I want
yeah,
to go and buy a Rimac Nevera, and you buy the Rimac Nevera. You're not shopping around. If
yeah.
you want uh, a Porsche, you're going to get a
Hmm.
Porsche. You're not
Hmm.
going to, some people will cross shop, but I think in general,
Hmm.
you're going to know what you want. And I think this is one of those vehicles. In general, you don't, if you want a Cybertruck, you're probably not going and also test driving an F-150 Lightning. You're probably getting the Cybertruck. You
Yeah,
know what you want.
again, that brings up it, I really have some concerns, mostly surrounding the price point of this, but the long-term sustainability of sales for the ID Buzz, because I think like what we've seen with a lot of other vehicles, especially in the EV market, there's very high initial demand from kind of the first adopters and the people that want to be the first on their block to have something. After that gets exhausted, I I think this might be a tough sell. I think if people went in with the expectation to be 50,000, I think that'd sell tons of them. And I think they could sustain that level of interest. But at $70,000 for one of these, I mean,
Yeah.
when and fairly or unfairly, I think the competition is honestly the Sienna, the Odyssey, the Pacifica, and those are at a substantially lower price point. Granted, they're not full EVs.
I think they're
Um,
the competition, though, in the way that
yeah.
people would go, oh, I want an ID Buzz. That's what I want. And then you go, whoa, like
What
65,000,
else is out there?
70,000. Wow,
Yeah.
I can get that Chrysler Pacifica and it does everything that I need.
And
And
I'm in the
maybe the
case of
price will come down on this.
The Pacifica also offers a plug-in hybrid version. So I think for a lot of shoppers, that might be the fallback is like, because the initial attraction of the ID Buzz is, oh, it's got cool kind of retro futuristic styling. It's kind of got that California beach vibe. It's electric, cool. But then, you know, once they get past the sticker shock, oh, what else is on the market?
So
Oh,
I guess they're not
yeah.
cross shopping. They are being disappointed and being forced to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, that's what's kind of, I think what's proven to have happened with the Cybertruck to a degree. You got
Hmm.
all the people that buy it initially really
Hmm.
wanted it at any price point. And then you go through a year and then it turns into, well, the general public ain't gonna
And I would
really
say
spend this
this a
much.
similar thing happened with the F-150 Lightning,
Yeah.
where they had to resort to lowering the prices, special rebates and incentives. I think demand has kind of somewhat normalized with those to the point where they have a pretty sustainable sales rate, but it definitely had its peaks and valleys at the beginning. So,
Well, hopefully they end up lowering the price eventually, but hopefully they can still make a profit on it because if they're not making profits on these things, this EV
well, I
revolution ain't
mean,
gonna happen.
so to that point, all of them currently come from Germany, which is probably one of the highest labor cost markets possibly in the world. Um, so potentially they could make it in Chattanooga, but now they're unionized. So, I mean, if they really want to make a decent margin on it, maybe they'd need to build it in Mexico or something. I mean,
Mm,
I don't know. Anyway, but
tariffs.
yeah.
Raise the tariffs. That's the answer. All right.
Uh, all right,
There's
getting
a,
on to what you were all excited about, and
and
it
it's
seems
gonna
like
turn
you're
out
one of the few that
we're gonna dive into this, and I'm gonna suddenly peter out. But I was excited about this. So a couple weeks ago,
until it actually happened, then you're like,
yeah.
that's it.
Well, was it a week ago, 2 weeks ago? I don't even remember when this was. I should have written down a date. We were doing other episodes,
Special episodes and
and
guests. Yeah.
I thought about recording a special episode about this Wii robot thing that Tesla did, but
Hmm.
then it happened, and it kind of just was like a wah wah of just this overall like there wasn't much content there. but I still want to talk about some of this stuff. So
Hmm.
this was Tesla held an event called We Robot. It was on the Warner Brothers
Yeah.
backlot, wasn't it? In
Yes, I
Burbank.
believe it's October 8th. If I'm
It sounds about right, or the 10th. If we were better at this job, we'd have looked it up. It's a week or so ago. But there, everybody expected an autonomous cab. And that was what was delivered, was an autonomous cab. And if you haven't seen it by now, just Google it. You'll find it. And he, Elon stood there. How long was he there on stage? It was like 20 minutes, wasn't it? It
yeah.
wasn't long.
So correction, it was the 10th, but
There
potato
you go.
potato.
So he was not on stage long, and in that amount of time, he managed to unveil three things, or unveil two things and then reintroduce a third. One of them was a Cybercab, which was two-seater, two-door, butterfly door, no steering wheel, autonomous, level 5, because it's got
Hmm.
no choice because you can't
Yeah.
stop it.
No wheel, no pedals. Yeah.
And he said Tesla plans to launch fully autonomous driving in Texas and California next year, with the Cybercab entering production by 2026. Who is this? Oh, this was The Verge reporting on this.
Hmm.
Additionally, Tesla is developing, the Optimus robot. We'll get to that in a minute.
Hmm.
But there he said, okay, Cybercab, which Elon did refer to as Cybercab and as Robotaxi. Like they hadn't even decided on a name. He called it interchangeably in the same sentence, Cybercab and Robotaxi. So it seemed like a
Well, you could
lot of
argue
this,
one is the type and one is the vehicle, but I don't know.
I guess, the way he talked, it sounded like I took it as he didn't even know what it was called or they hadn't decided. It was like in one of those
Yeah.
meetings, what should we call it? And then they just, you know, end up with nothing. He even said at one point, he called it a model. He had a line of them and he said the Model Y in Cybercab. And I'm like, as far as I could see, there were no Model Ys there. There was just cybercabs
Hmm.
or robotaxis, what you're referring to. Then they unveiled the Ruh-bo-vehn, which is either the Ruh-bo-vehn or the Ruh-bo-vehn. I don't know
But Elon
which.
said he likes Verboven.
Has he said that? That he's
I think he
purposefully
said
said that?
just
That
trolling
seems
us all
like an
again.
insider joke that was made, which I'm fine with it being called the Ruh-bo-vehn. I think that's perfectly acceptable. I often call robots robots because if you go back and you watch a lot of 1950s sci-fi, they refer to them as robots, and I assume that that's much like in Back to the Future. They didn't know that it was gigawatt, so they pronounced it gigawatt.
Well, like GIF and GIF.
In the 1950s, I don't think they know how to call robots, so they called them robots. So the Robo-van it's a bus. It looks like a Art Deco train. You can't see the
Mhm.
wheels from the outside. They said seats up to 20, even though the model that they showed only seated up to 14. Elon said the Robovan is what's going to solve for high density, which I was like, we kind of already solved for that, like with buses and trains,
Yeah.
mass transit. But he did say that it can get the cost of travel down to 5. He said, the quote was, so if you want to take a sports team somewhere, or you're looking to really get the cost of travel down to, I don't know, 5 to 10 cents a mile, then you can use the Robovan. He's guessing. He's saying, I don't know, 5 to 10 cents. He doesn't know. But I guess it was also said that it's about $1 a mile for other forms of transportation. I don't know if that's correct, but I could certainly see an EV being a less expensive solution per
Well,
mile.
internal combustion, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's whether it's a gas or diesel or CNG or whatever, I can see
Mhm.
that being more expensive than electric. Whether or not it's 20 times cheaper, I don't know.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
that's kind of what he's implying. And people got in these and I guess drove around. At least they did with the cybercabs. I don't recall now if they got in the Ruh-bo-vehn at the
I
unveil.
think I think Tesla employees and staff presumably got out, as
Yes.
it pulled up, but I don't know if they did subsequent rides after that.
Now he said that these would be uh available. The not the Roboven, but the Cybercab will be available for purchase
Hmm.
for sub $30,000.
Hmm.
And I want to kind of ask before we go on to Optimus, is there a market to buy your own autonomous vehicle that you cannot drive? I don't think there's actually a market to own your own vehicle that you can't drive. I think the market for a fully autonomous, no steering wheel, no pedals, level 5 all the time
Fleets. Yeah.
vehicles is fleets, and you call up, just like I don't want to own an Uber. I want
Hmm.
to have Uber come to me.
Hmm.
And then I want to get out of the Uber, and it's no longer my problem. It
Hmm.
is somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
And I think that that is the market for
Well,
the
this,
cyber the cyber cab is Uber, Lyft, maybe even
whoever.
Waymo.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
These other the
I agree.
fleets.
I think realistically that the bigger market is fleets, whether
Do you think
it's,
that's I think that's the only market.
well, I mean, so I could understand it for seniors, um, you know,
Who can't get in and out of a cyber cab, just to be
well, people who are otherwise disabled or
who can't get in and out of a cyber cab.
potentially, now this brings up a whole other kind of legal unknown, but minors like you know, pre 16-year-olds that
Hmm.
for whatever reason, mom and dad are busy, can't take them to soccer practice, whatever. They just hop in
Yeah,
one of
I
these
used to
and
take the
off it
bus.
goes.
I used
Yeah.
to pay, I think it was like 15 cents or something every time you crossed the railway tracks. I
Yeah.
used to take the bus when I was in middle
S-
school.
So, I mean, I see a market for these, but to your point, I don't see a huge private market for these. And this is just my personal opinion on this. I don't really find the idea of sharing my personal vehicle with strangers appealing. I just
You don't
I
want to clean out the vomit after a wild Saturday
the
night of
vomit
earning
among
money?
potentially other things, but yeah. I mean, I've read a lot of horror stories about, ride hailing drivers, about all the stupid things people do in their cars. They have to clean them up. Um,
I was in a Wendy's the other day, and
mhm,
my kid wanted to go to the bathroom. So, he's 6, so I go into the bathroom, and these are locked bathrooms. We're in a
mhm,
good area. You still
mhm.
have to ask for the code. We go in, the bathroom's all nice, and my kid's like, "What is?" And he spells out a word, and it made no sense. And whatever. I'm looking around like for the sign. I'm looking at the signs, and there's not anything. Somebody's etched on the glass, some like random name or whatever.
I was
People
gonna
will
say some
destroy.
bad word.
No, it was a nonsense word, but
Oh,
people will destroy
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
If it is there, they will destroy it.
yeah. Well, I mean, the concept Elon put forth, and maybe for some people this would have appeal, is having like a private fleet of these that you own as either an individual or like kind of a self-contained LLC or whatever. Let's say you have 5 or 6 of these. They're just whizzing around, picking up, dropping off. The kind of the pie in the sky concept is while you're sleeping, these are making money for you.
I could see people doing that. Same people that do
Yeah.
Airbnbs, they buy up
Yeah.
places,
So
redo
I
them, and
mean,
yep.
for some people, this would make sense
But that's
and
a
would be
company.
appealing.
That's an
But
LLC. That's a
effectively,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
effectively, it's a company.
That is not Ed
As
saying I'm going to replace my Model 3 and I'm going to get a cyber cab.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, and so I want to address something else, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead to what you were going to say, but a lot of people say, why is it only a two-seater? So from what I've read, the reason why is, and I can't even remember exactly the source, but they did a study of like ride hailing rides, and the vast majority of them were 2 people or less per ride.
And Elon
Um,
even said that. And he
yeah,
gave the number. It was like
yeah.
89% or
So
whatever it
from a
was.
utilization perspective, it kind of makes sense that it's a two-seater, because if you think about the knock-on effects of that, you can make it smaller, you can make it lighter weight, make it cheaper to build than if it was a four-seater, presumably. Um, Now,
But you've
could
eliminated what you
mhm,
started with was like people with mobility issues, the elderly. None of them can get into a low slung car with a butterfly door. You have nobody in a wheelchair, nobody with a walker. You
well, that's what
have
the Robovin's for, right?
the Robovan that they don't have a kneeling version of and didn't have a
Ramp.
mobility ramp.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's still
I mean, how cool would that have
if
been
I
if it had a kneeling, if it wasn't just a kneeling version like those kneeling buses, if it
uh
wasn't a kneeling bus, if he drove up and it went boom down on
and
the
a ramp
floor
deployed
flat.
and someone in a
No,
wheelchair came out.
not even that. Like there are car trailers that you can
Hmm.
get. So one of the problems, because I race cars, one of the problems is race cars are very low. How do you get them on a trailer? So you do
Hmm.
extension ramps, extension ramps. There are trailers that are bagged and they go down to the ground
Hmm.
and you drive
Hmm.
on and the the thickness of the ramp that you were climbing onto is, the quarter inch of steel.
Hmm. Hmm.
You could slam the Robovan down so it doesn't even need to kneel. It is
Hmm.
on the ground. Now you've
Hmm.
eliminated all mobility issues. But they didn't even do that. Like they made a bus. They literally made a bus. They
Art
invented
Deco.
a bus.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
city is already all electric buses.
Yeah.
I didn't see the difference between this and a Robovan.
Yeah.
Other
I,
than my city's got buses driving around and there ain't no Robovans out there.
yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, well, I mean, this is the Rabovin is clearly smaller than a municipal bus. I mean, typical city bus, if I had to guess, I'd say 50 or 60 passenger. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Maybe
I don't know.
about that.
I
So
don't know.
this
I
is
don't take the
about
bus. What am I, poor? What?
so this is about a third of that size. So, this is more of like a last mile, maybe like corporate campuses, you know,
I think
you
we'll
know,
see the Robovan at Tesla manufacturing facilities.
that or, large kind of, you know, gated resort, senior, 55 plus communities,
They
you know,
love them their golf carts though.
well, that's true. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess we kind of expected both of these, but it's still, to me, the takeaway for me wasn't this like super compelling value proposition, like, oh, this is a must have, or this is going to blow up and, everybody's going to want one of these. I think people are still like, okay,
And
and
that the stock market agreed, tanked after this event.
yeah,
I say tanked. I don't really know. It went down.
it was,
So the interesting number I saw was the amount of market cap lost
mhm.
by Tesla after this announcement
It was like more than GM.
was more than Ford, their market cap. So the amount of value lost by Tesla was more than the market cap of Ford,
Yeah,
which is just ridiculous.
yeah.
But yeah, and another thing that I heard, which I kind of agree with, if they can make these things for 30 grand or under 30 grand, put a steering wheel and pedals in it and sell it as Model 2. Done.
Which
Like it looked
they
great.
they they may still,
And
or
and and we can
the
call it the Honda CR, wasn't it the CRV? Wasn't that the little two-door hybrid they had?
oh no, not CRV, CRZ.
CR, is that what it was?
Well,
Honda
first there was the
CRZ.
Insight, and then there was the CRZ.
Yeah, it was a CRZ. Yeah. So they
Yeah,
basically Tesla reinvented the CRZ but made it fully electric instead of hybrid.
but I still think for the low cost model it needs to be at least a four seater. I feel that. I think they're really really limiting themselves with two seats. Now, again, like I said, I understand the rationale for uh, an autonomous robo taxi just because of utilization and cost containment and stuff like that. For a mass market low cost vehicle, I think it needs to be a four seater. The alternate theory still out there is that the so-called Model 2 or low cost vehicle will essentially be decontented Model 3.
And that's what
That's
I
still
think. Yeah.
possible.
That's my theory. Is
So,
that's that. I think he got, yeah, okay, whatever. I won't rehash that. The other thing that marched out during this event was Optimus.
Yes.
And actually moved this time instead of being on a stretcher like the guy from Silence of the Lambs, like Hannibal Lecter, which is what
That
it was last time.
or originally a guy in a spandex suit.
Yes, it went from a spandex suit to Hannibal Lecter robot to now they're actually walking and moving. And they are supposed to cost 20 to 30,000 each.
Hmm.
So I don't know if they ever actually come out, what, 150,000, 200,000 in because we're talking Elon bucks here. Uh Elon said, "I think this will be the biggest product of any kind, and it will be an age of abundance."
After it
For
takes all of our jobs.
yeah, for whatever that means. He also, and this gets political, he's mentioned with this that they're doing all these jobs, so then you can go and do the things that you want to do. And then
Mhm.
you'd have, he's even talked about a base income that should be offered.
Oh, universal basic income. Yeah.
Yes, and that is very socialist, Mr. Musk, considering your political sway.
As of late. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's very, and I'm not Republican, I am not Democrat. I don't really know where I fit in,
Hmm.
as with a lot of people. So I totally get he might be for a a base income and be like majority Republican what he believes in, but it's crazy that
Yeah.
like how because a universal base income is a very like it's a fairly extreme concept right now on one side.
On its face, it seems very socialistic. However, if you really go down that rabbit hole of like kind of extrapolating, the path of technology and futurism, it may be kind of a societal necessity potentially. I mean, otherwise, just massive rioting in the streets and unrest and
Dogs and cats living together.
so I mean, again, we could do a whole other episode or probably a series of episodes about that, even though it's not directly related to EVs. But
So
anyway,
20 to 30,000, we could just throw that out. That's never going to happen.
I
Am I right?
well, I would be astounded with the amount of technology um in one of these to meet that price point. I mean, honestly. And I mean, I'll even say since the man in the spandex suit, I've if you pay attention, there's been remarkable evolution of Optimus. Like, you remember, this is like what I would say early to mid 2000s. You remember Asimo, the
Hmm.
Honda robot?
Yeah. I've
But
seen Asimo at Disney World.
yeah, but Asimo walked kind of stiffly and with bent knees and kind of, very,
Hmm.
kind of robotically, I guess,
Asimo's
for
been
lack
doing
of,
that since the early 80s.
yeah. So, but impressive for its time, and he was kind of cute and kind of smaller
Looked
in
like a little
stature.
spaceman because he had the
Yeah.
backpack on and
Um,
everything. Yep.
so the early versions of Optimus seem like larger Asimos. They walked very stiffly, very. The biggest thing I noticed with the latest evolution is the fluidity of movement. The movement of these Optimus robots was a lot more human-like, I guess, for lack of a better term. Specifically, and I noticed like the hip articulation, which so in addition to the bipedal movement, you kind of had the hips kind of going like this, which mimics human movement a little more, whereas before it was very like
Hmm.
so. I think in terms of the like fine motor skills, that's really developing pretty quickly, I think. So now it's just a matter of how quickly they can kind of iterate with the machine learning and AI and skills and basically having it develop real useful skills rather than just party tricks.
So you
So
get into what you were saying about cybercab of mobility, like people that elderly, stuff like that.
mhm,
That's about the I see a couple places where Optimus could be useful. That is one of them.
mhm,
Because when you are caring for people, you
mhm,
need a human touch. I mean, a robot's crap, but that there's a lot of other things that go on.
mhm,
Like in-home caregivers will
Hmm.
be cooking food. They will be cleaning those dishes. They'll be picking simple things, picking up something that falls on the floor. A fork
Hmm.
falls on the floor, can no
Hmm.
longer be picked up. A
Hmm.
robot can go ahead and do that. So while I believe that you're not going to have Optimuses like building cars, you're going to have specialized robots building cars.
Hmm.
You've got one task, you will build the robot to do that one specific task. You're not going to pick
Hmm.
a two-armed, two-leg humanoid
Hmm.
to weld a door onto a car. You're going to have an arm with a welder. Like
Hmm.
that's just
Hmm.
how it is. But I can see like things where it gets into elder care, people with any other issues, where
Hmm.
you've got many things that need to be done. That could be a lifesaver. And I could even see somebody like me going,
Hmm.
man, I sure would like to have an Optimist and just say, you know what? Here's the meals I like.
Hmm.
Go and buy everything and cook everything. That's all I want you to do. Just
And do the
like,
laundry while you're at it.
and you could do the laundry and you can vacuum
Hmm.
and do these things. And man, if one of those was 20 grand and it worked, I think I'd be I would
No,
be right there. I think that would be worth it to me.
I think this is kind of one of those things, at least to me, it's like you don't know. This Elon is kind of a hype man, and he frequently overpromises and underdelivers, at
He even
least.
said in this not to that he's optimistic
Yeah.
on like or he's over optimistic on a lot of these dates. And
Yeah.
then he like goes, so maybe
Yeah,
it's
he
not
joked
26,
about
maybe
it.
it's
It's like,
27. Yeah. Yeah, he
you
knows
know,
full well.
he
And
knows,
much like
yeah.
everything else here, take everything with a grain of salt because it's not happening the way he presented it. But
Yeah.
back to whatever you were saying.
Yeah. But I think potentially this could be, I hate using the term disruptive. It seems very kind of hackneyed and like overused, but um, disruptive in a good or bad way. I mean, this could potentially, replace, a lot of, no, I guess kind of caregiving jobs or more kind of tedious kind of tasks
Yeah, I
for a
don't
lot
think
of
it
people.
necessarily replaces the caregiving jobs as much as it
Supplements
takes
it.
the low, yeah, supplements or takes the low level stuff. So if you go to an assisted living place, you could
Hmm.
have a robot collecting the laundry, preparing the food, and
Hmm.
doing a couple of other tasks while you've
Hmm.
got the
Nurses.
skilled
Yeah.
nurses that
Yeah.
are
The
moving somebody
PAs,
from
whatever. Yeah.
beds. You don't want a robot, at least I wouldn't want a robot giving medicine.
Hmm.
You wouldn't, something could go horribly wrong with that. So there's certain jobs that they could do, certain
Hmm.
jobs that they
Hmm.
wouldn't do. So I think it kind of supplements, and I think there's a big market for that. It's never going to be $20,000 to $30,000, and if they could get it to that price, Hyundai, they own Boston Dynamics. Like
Hmm.
they've got, I don't know
Hmm.
how long Boston Dynamics is going, but they've got to have at least a couple decades of experience on Tesla. Whether or not they're
Hmm.
going in it with the funding that Elon's going
Hmm.
at it with, I don't know. But
I don't know.
it's not like
Well, I
Elon's
mean,
the only one
but to
doing
your
it.
point, though, there are other competitors out there, and I think what it's really going to depend on is who, not even necessarily first mover advantage, but I guess for lack of a better term, best mover advantage, meaning pricing, availability, scale, whoever can get to that point the fastest. And now the other thing is, we were talking earlier about tariffs and trade. I mean, who knows? China could come up with this first, but if we've erected all these, 100% tariffs, I mean, you got to factor that into things too.
In
So, I
which case,
mean,
they just
who
march
knows?
the robots over here. It'd be
Oh
like
man, we're
from
we're going off into really
Pirates of the
dystopian.
Caribbean, where you got the zombie pirates walking along the floor. That's how they just march them over here. All right, so
Moving on. Oh, so
well, no, there was just a lot of other details
uh-huh.
about this that went on. I'd made a whole lot of little notes. Musk said things like, let's not get nuanced here when he was talking about
Yeah,
how
obviously not,
autonomous
because there were a lot
driving.
of unanswered
Yeah,
questions. The
everything he
presentation.
said. There was
Yeah.
no charging ports on the Cybercab. That could totally work, but once again, it was wireless charging, presumably. I don't
Yeah.
remember if he said it, but that's what it would be. And maybe he must have, because then they talked about the efficiency. He talked about
Hmm.
wireless
Hmm.
charging efficiency, and it is way better than it used to be. But
Hmm.
there was the overall theme seemed to be, let's not get nuanced here. Exactly what he said. That I would put in the nuance category, dates, prices,
Hmm.
who's buying these things. Much like Optimus, 20 grand, count me in.
Mhm.
150,000? No way.
No thanks.
I'll pour my own cereal. It's and a lot of things like that.
Yeah.
Like Cybercab, I have zero interest if it doesn't have a steering wheel to own it personally. Like,
Yeah.
and
I,
I don't think
I'm
it
I'm
does
not
more.
interested. Even at that price, it's
And I
like,
think all of that goes into a statement of let's not get nuanced here.
yeah.
I think it was ideas. It was
They're
him.
concepts. They were both concepts. I'd say of the three, probably the closest to being a reality, ironically, is probably Optimus. I mean, I feel,
I can't disagree.
yeah. I mean, to be perfectly,
And even that's
yeah.
probably at least a decade away, and he's off by $100,000 on the price.
Well, the early iterations. In term the Optimus mass scale, yeah, I think you're right. About probably 10 years out. But
And that's
anyway,
best case scenario.
anyway,
So what else? Let's see. Oh, in the process of all of this, of let's not get nuanced here. Just to prove the point for all the dates, is Tesla then after this pushes the Cybertruck range extender release date back into later 2025. It used to be like early 2025, now it's later, and the
mhm,
range has been reduced again. So now it's like 450 miles instead of 475 miles for your Cybertruck. But let's not get
mhm.
nuanced here.
You
And
know,
they
I've got
also,
some I could say about this, but
okay, go for it.
I
We've
know
got to
we
wrap
made
this thing up anyway. We're already like,
way over.
yeah.
I know when, the Hummer EV first came out, and then following that, the Silverado EV, a lot of people made fun of it. Oh, it's 9,000 pounds. It's a big, heavy pig. Yeah, but it's capable. And on the RST version, it has the midgate, which, I'm a huge fan of being a
Mm-hmm.
former
Anything with
Avalanche
a
owner.
mid-gate. If they put a mid-gate in the Cybercab, you would be all
Oh,
in.
I'd be like, yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
in. Um, it's in some ways, I mean, I was a little skeptical of GM's approach with it too at first, but I'm beginning to think that they really kind of did it right. Now,
With the
granted,
technology that we have in the time that we
with
are
the
living in.
current
Yeah.
technology, everything,
Yep.
the way they packaged it, the again, it is a little pricey, I think, but in terms of capability, range, practicality, usefulness, I mean, I think they got it right. No,
Guy down
how
the
many
street from me
people are
just bought the
willing to pay
GMC.
80, $100,000 for
The
it? Who
guy
knows?
down the street from me who just bought the GMC version.
Oh, the
Looks,
Sierra?
yeah, looks really nice.
I didn't even know those were even on the street yet.
He's got
Yeah,
one. It's
yeah,
like a grayish, silvery gray. I'm awful at colors,
yeah.
but that's why the What Cars logo is red.
All right, we got a few little quick things we wanted to hit on before
Yeah,
we go away.
we'll go through them real quick because we're
Yeah,
already over.
Tw 25, not 2025 Mustang Mach-E. Price goes down, features go up. Finally, it has a heat pump across the board,
It's
which,
funny when heat pumps seem like a big deal, but here I'm like, in
well, I
California.
mean, from the standpoint of like if you live in a really cold climate,
Yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah.
much more efficient. They do have a tangible effect on range. Um,
Yeah, it's just one of
Range
those things that
preservation versus, a grid heater.
it
But
just doesn't affect me.
yeah, you're like, oh, that's nice.
Like it's like adding bells and whistles that I literally make no difference in my life
Yeah.
as to
I think the biggest news here, I mean, some people geek out about heat pumps. That's cool. From a functional standpoint, they're better. Um, is the price reduction. So
yeah.
starting price now under 40,000, 38,490. So it's 3,500 less than last year. The top of the line rally model, their super hot rod, that is now just below 58,000 versus 65 last year. So that's more than a $7,000 price drop on that.
And
So
the average price of a vehicle is about $48,000.
mhm,
So if you can get one of these for under 39,
yeah,
and I mean I've got a
I'd
family of
say EVs have
five,
gone mainstream. I'd say,
we fit in the Mach-E. Like
mhm,
it's a good vehicle.
yeah,
So I think that's a win. Sub
yeah,
$40,000 SUV crossover, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
I'm all in. Like that is the where he says let's not get nuanced here. These are the nuances that you need. I don't care
mhm,
about the heat pump, whatever. Somebody else will. But for me, the price,
Yeah.
like you said,
No, that's a very compelling price, and
that's the nuance that matters.
that's basically puts it neck and neck with the Model Y. So
Hmm.
I think finally, and especially with the 2025 model, presumably that's going to have the NACS port. I think finally the Model Y has some real competition. Um, so
Yeah, how long
and
before
in
Elon
addition,
closes
the
off
the new Ionic 5 also has a NACS port too. Don't forget.
the next thing we're gonna see is like um uh gold gold edition double 5-star superchargers or something that are Tesla only. Because at this point,
Possibly, yeah.
you've got price parity, you've got prices below the average price of gas vehicles and right just all vehicles
Hmm.
that EVs are now affordable.
Hmm.
And you've got vehicles that offer like here it's a Ford, it's not a Tesla, so some people will just like it because they've driven Fords all their lives, and so they
Hmm.
might go
Hmm.
and buy that. Or like I really like Hyundai Group vehicles, so maybe I'd go and buy an Ionic 5 or something like that. Uh, and the fact that they're on the supercharger network is like now I don't have that to worry about.
Yeah.
I wonder if Elon's going to start closing off certain ones in or like how you have congestion charges and stuff during
Hmm. Hmm.
certain time periods and all that. If it's going to be during peak times, this is Tesla only.
Or they throttle the charging rate for non-Teslas. That's
Hmm.
another possibility.
Yeah, because they're going to need to start pushing people away.
Hmm.
I, man,
I don't
it's going
know.
to be fun.
A lot of unknowns.
Fun. All right, everything we talked about. Links in the show notes. Show notes can be found embedded in the podcast and also on thewhatcar.com. While you're doing a little podcast thing, if you listen to us on Apple Podcast, leave us a review. Anywhere if you want, you can leave us a review, but Apple Podcast is kind of like the main thing. Regardless of what Google says about the YouTube podcast, Apple Podcast is still the main server of podcasts. If you want to help us out financially, head to the whatcar.com/store. You can buy a t-shirt. We've got Whatcar branded stuff. We've also got fun stuff like the shirt that Ed is wearing right now. I've got an adapter for that. We've got charge. We've got EVAF. We've got EV displacement replacement. We got a whole bunch of stuff. We got hats, backpacks, water bottles. If you got anything else that you would like us to make, email us. hello@thewhatcar.com. And giant companies, massive giant companies. Um, Boston Dynamics. I don't know. I was going to say Tesla, but they're never going to advertise. Uh, at least not while I'm still on this podcast. Head to thewhatcar.com/advertise and
Deal of the
contact us
week.
there. Yeah, we'll make you a deal this week. I
We
don't know
got
what
some
news is going
really
to
cool
happen.
stuff coming up the next couple weeks, but
We do. Next week, I think is another normal episode where it's you and me bad mouthing a variety of companies. I think that's how it goes, isn't it?
and then after that, special guest, and then we have some, I think something kind of interesting coming up around the holidays that
Yeah, we're getting
hopefully will
dangerously
be
close
informative.
to Thanksgiving around that time. So I don't know about you, but I'm looking to take a week off. So we're going to do something special for our holiday episodes. For now, the special thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click stop recording and I'm going to package this up and broadcast it everywhere across the internet.
Tell a friend.
So, yes. See ya.